Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Holy Happy Hour. I'm your host, Josh. And if you're new here, just to kind of give you a little intro to the name, the Holy Hour being the hour-long conversation we're about to have, and the happy hour being, we always want to grab a drink sometimes, just chill and hang out with some awesome people. So I'm excited for this series because we are going into less of the series that we've been doing on Catholicism is biblical and taking different studies and doing it from an intellectual standpoint. And now I want to get into people's stories, how they've encountered Jesus and their either conversion story or reversion stories or whatever it is, just their encounters with God. So today I have Taylor with me, who we've met through a Catholic content creator Discord channel. And that group has been an awesome, just blessing. But how's it going, Taylor?
It's going well. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to share my story.
Yeah, absolutely. So how's the new Pope life been?
It's been actually really fun. Obviously, This is my first conclave as a Catholic. Mm-hmm. And so just being able to watch it and seeing how excited everybody was, it's just been really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really cool. I actually was talking to my mom and I said, this is kind of when you're sitting around waiting to see who's going to win the presidency, except for this one's way more important. And she's not Catholic, but even she was like, yeah, you're right. It is just way more important. And it was fun. It was a fun little 2 days. I got to jump on the live stream with Kyle and, or was it? No, with Drew. And then Davide, who was in Rome, which was really cool. His awesome. You could see St. Peter's behind, way behind him, but see him there and jump on with some people. So it was fun to kind of talk about it. And it was really cool because I think in everybody I talked to, nobody mentioned Father Robert Prevost or Prevost, however you say it. So it's kind of cool. I think it's just a sign that the Holy Spirit truly is leading them and truly is picking the new Pope. But the cardinals are just serving as the people in the chairs. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. Well, cool. So we're doing this conversion series, and so I'm glad you're coming on. I know sometimes sharing stories can be a little scary. I know people are vulnerable. Obviously, with you, you share as little or as much as you want. But I'm super excited to hear your story, just converting to the faith and kind of where you started. And this will be great. So anyone listening, I'll actually be hearing this at the same time as you are for the first time. And so, yes, there might be times I may have questions, I may butt in. So I'll go ahead and say ahead of time, pardon my interruption. So, but yeah, start from the beginning. Where'd you grow up, and what's kind of your story?
Yeah, so I grew up in Ohio, rural Ohio, and my family, I don't remember us going to church. My parents say that we attended church, and then we stopped attending this Baptist church because my brother kept escaping the nursery. So that's the story that I got. So I never really remember going. But I always found it interesting, especially now looking back. I would always try to go to vacation Bible school with people, or if my grandparents would go to church, I would try to go with them. And then they lived across the street from a church. When I would go visit them, I would go to church. And so just looking at that, I feel like God was after my heart, even from such a young age.
Yeah.
And as I grew up, my parents divorced, and my mom moved next door to this family, and they had a daughter that was my age, and they were very strong evangelicals. They were in a charismatic, non-denominational church, and her and I became such close friends that they invited me to go to youth group. So I would go with them every Wednesday night. I really loved it. I had been in environments like that before, but I don't know, just something was different there. I loved the people and the environment and the atmosphere. Just hearing about the love of the Lord, even from that age, I had, kind of grown up hearing it here, there, and everywhere. Yeah. So I felt like I was kind of settling into this church that I wasn't going on Sundays, but I was still going every week, and it was just a cool community to have. I prayed the salvation prayer and did all of that stuff, went to church camp, and I actually I have been involved in music from a really young age. It was something I did in school, and I taught myself how to play piano chords so I could join the youth worship team at this church.
Were you a singer? Is that what the music you did, or did you play any other instruments?
Yeah, so I played piano, and then I would also sing.
Oh, cool. Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I did that for a couple years, and then my friend ended up being homeschooled, and then I was still in public school, so we just didn't see each other as much, and so I kind of just stopped going to church.
Yeah.
And then I went to high school. I did all the typical high school kid things. I wasn't
Mhm.
interested in like being in church at all.
Yeah.
And I didn't have like family that was kind of keeping me in the church. I just, did whatever. I
Mhm.
was involved in a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so, as I was preparing to graduate high school and go to college, I had a moment that I was like, if I'm going to be a Christian, if I'm going to follow
Mhm.
God, then I need to find some sort of like community
Mhm.
going into this next season of life. And so I found a group on my college campus. It
Mhm.
was Assemblies of God, so kind of the same environment that I was used to, very charismatic.
Yeah.
Joined the worship team, joined discipleship, joined like all the groups. I was very
Mhm.
involved. I loved it.
Mhm.
Um, Ended up leaving college.
Mhm.
And from there, I just kind of would bounce around to different churches based on
Mhm.
where I was going.
Yeah.
So, as far as like what kind of led into, I guess, Catholicism, is from my upbringing, I didn't know that,
Mhm.
I guess, like the history of the church.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was going to all these churches as I was moving. And at this one point, I was nannying for a family, and they had asked me to house sit. So I was house sitting for them. And I was laying in bed one night and I like came across this video, and it was
Mhm.
from Lizzie's Answers,
Oh
who
yeah.
I had
Yeah.
followed for like not for any religion content. I followed her for
Mhm.
something else, but it was so long ago.
Yeah.
And I watched this video, and I always say and joke that it like ruined my life in the best way. Like I didn't expect it.
Yeah.
So I just watched her video, and it was why I'm becoming Catholic.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, that's weird, but like, let's see what's going on.
Yeah.
And so I watched it, and it was the first time that I heard anything about real presence in the Eucharist.
Mhm.
First time I heard about apostolic succession and like the church fathers, and she was giving like church father quotes about real presence.
Yeah.
And she was showing where like the Bible shows that like the church is the pillar of truth, and like
Mhm.
how confession is biblical, and
Yeah.
just all these things.
Yeah.
And again, this is the first time that I'm ever hearing this
Mhm.
because, like I said, growing up, I just thought that church was the type of church that I went to. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that there was this long history and that they believed that the Catholic Church was the early church.
Mhm.
Um, and so from there, after I finished that video, I was like, oh no. Do I have to become Catholic? Like, if
Yeah.
this is the original church and this is true, then what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And this is back in 2018. I
Mhm.
didn't come into the church until 2024, so there was a
Oh
long,
wow. Yeah. Very long time.
long span.
Yeah.
So from there, I every free moment that I had, I was reading and
Mhm.
listening and researching and trying to disprove the Catholic Church.
Mhm.
Um, as a girl in her young early 20s,
Mhm.
yeah, who doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
So I remember like Googling things like, can Protestants go to heaven? Or like,
Mhm. Yeah.
real presence in the Eucharist debunked. Like I was looking for
Yeah.
anything that would
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
satisfy me to be like, okay, I don't have to
Mhm.
become
Yeah.
Catholic. Like I can say Protestant.
Yeah. I'm sure some of those videos too were like, here's a video of the Eucharist debunked. And then you watch it and you're like, no, that's not doing it for me. I don't know. Lizzie's video maybe makes more sense than that.
Yeah. Like
So,
they tried, but
yeah.
it never satisfied me. It never
Hmm.
been was like, okay, like
Hmm.
this is, whatever.
Yeah.
So I did that probably for 2 months, like straight.
Hmm.
Like I was exhausted just trying to figure it
Oh,
out.
yeah.
And because in my mind, the only Catholics that I knew were a lot of just like Catholic in name only. So they
Hmm.
weren't like practicing their faith, and they were. I also believe that like Mary was the entire focus. I literally thought
Hmm.
like the Mass was just all about Mary.
Yeah.
I was very shocked to find out that she's mentioned like one time,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe
Hmm.
twice.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of digging into all this, and I wasn't really in like a church at the time because I had just gone through a move.
Hmm.
And I was still in really close contact with my neighbors at this point. And
Hmm.
so I remember going over for dinner in the middle of what my friends lovingly call my Catholic crisis. And I went over for dinner, and I was sitting on their couch, and they had their new pastors over for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looked very distraught because I was exhausted from
Yeah.
doing, thinking about all this. And they said, Taylor, what's wrong? And I was like, oh, nothing. Like, I'm not going to tell you all this
Yeah.
stuff. And eventually I said what was going on. And of course, they're throwing the typical,
Mm-hmm.
no, you can't become Catholic. Like, they believe in this, and it's not
Yeah.
biblical.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. I'm not going to be Catholic. I'm going to stay a Protestant. And so
Mm-hmm.
I ended up starting to go back to church with them and their new
Mm-hmm.
pastors that were over for dinner that night. So that was
Mm-hmm.
their first impression of me, was me thinking I need to be Catholic.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So from there, like I said, I kind of made the decision that I was like, nope, I
Mm-hmm.
can't do this. I would be completely alone. Like, my community, my family is all within like a church. This
Yeah.
not a church, but the
Mm-hmm.
Protestant circle.
Yeah.
And so I got really involved in this church. I kind of took everything that I had learned and was in my head, and I just shoved it under the rug, hoping that it would never make an appearance again.
Yeah.
And so I got really involved again. I joined the worship team. I was in young adults. I became like a leader there.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the cleaning team. I was involved. I was basically working like a part-time job on top of my
Mm-hmm.
full-time job,
Yeah.
being involved in this church. And I think I was so involved because I feel like I was like running away from
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
God was calling me to go.
Yeah.
And I was being discipled by the pastor's wife. And so
Mm-hmm.
discipleship there was like, we would meet every other week. I would read
Mm-hmm.
scripture. We would be diving into scripture
Mm-hmm.
and talking about just different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when this is 2018 to 2020, so it's about
Mm-hmm.
3 years, I'm like really involved,
Yeah.
going for it, doing everything that I can to not be Catholic. And 2020 hits, the pandemic happens, and I'm a part of a team of 7 people probably that are doing
Mm-hmm.
the online services.
Okay.
So I'm still at church every week, but obviously everything is shut down, so it's very different.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of, I feel like a lot of people had this thing where they saw how churches were handling the pandemic
Mm-hmm.
and then the election. And so there were just a lot of things in a row that was making me like reevaluate, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, where I was and like
Yeah.
what church I was a part of. And so towards the end of 2020, I'm also still in this discipleship with my pastor's wife, and as we're digging into the scripture, ironically, it's bringing up questions for me about, is the theology that I'm listening to on a Sunday morning
Mm-hmm.
like biblically accurate? Like, if I'm
Yeah.
reading this stuff and it just seemed like things were being taken out of context.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's the end of 2020, the election is passed, the pandemic is not passed, but things are moving
Mm-hmm.
towards back to normalcy. And it's in December, and I sit down and I'm like, I need to take a step back, because
Mm-hmm.
I can't be a leader in this church if I don't agree with the theology and what's being preached
Mm-hmm.
on a Sunday morning. And I brought that up, and it was not received well. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand that, because like they're the authority of that church
Yeah.
and the leaders. And so me questioning them, and it wasn't in a bad way, it was just me saying what I was struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like my questions were just not met with grace.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something that we could just like talk through. It
Mm-hmm.
was, no, you need to do this, no, this is what we do. And she said something to me, and she was like, everything that was preached from the pulpit on a Sunday morning is 100% biblical.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, they're right, because they could take things out of context
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
use it to fit whatever meaning that they
Yeah.
needed it to. Doesn't mean that it's necessarily biblically sound,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
it could come from the Bible.
Yeah.
And so from there, I was like, again, like, this was my family. My family is not religious. I was
Yeah.
super involved in the church. And so like thinking about leaving that was really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stuck around for about another month, and then I came to the point that I was like, yeah, I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of also the like theology that I had learned however many years prior, 3-4 years prior, was coming back, and I was like, I can't run away from it anymore.
Yeah.
We would do communion twice a year,
Yeah.
symbolically, of course.
Yeah.
And we would sit there, and I'm just like, this isn't it.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to the point where everything just kind of bubbled up, and I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
have to leave.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so in February of 2021, I stepped down, and that was like the hardest
Mm-hmm.
thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like looking back now, I'm like, I mean, things have obviously changed, but it was
Mm-hmm.
seriously so hard.
Yeah.
So I told them that I was stepping down. I told them that I was taking a break
Mm-hmm.
because I thought maybe if I work through these things, I'll be back. But I
Yeah.
feel like deep down I knew that like this was it. Um, and so after stepping down, I didn't really know what to do. I was like free from like any authority or like anybody
Mm-hmm.
telling me what to do. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, like this is, I'm just not going to do anything. And I think I was really
Mm-hmm.
burnt out. I had been like giving a lot of myself, and I was questioning God with a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of just didn't do anything for a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually that just didn't satisfy me anymore either. I
Yeah.
was like, I need to be somewhere. Like I
Mm-hmm.
know that God is real. I know that He is good, and so I need to figure this out. And that was, I feel like, the first time that I could give Catholicism like a fair chance.
Yeah. Fair
Like I
chance.
wasn't
Mm-hmm.
looking at it through a lens of how I was an evangelical or
Mm-hmm.
wanting to stay evangelical. I was like, now I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started kind of reading about it again. I considered high church Protestantism because it was kind of like a middle of the road.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, we'll just see, like wherever
Yeah.
you want me, God.
Mm-hmm.
But also, please don't make me Catholic because I don't want to be Catholic. That was kind of a prayer like throughout this whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
And that's those famous words that every convert says, like, I don't want to become Catholic. Or I will never. I said, I'll go to mass with you, babe, but I'm never becoming Catholic. And my now wife was like, okay.
yeah. And so I guess at the end of 2021 is when I first went to mass, like
Mm-hmm.
actually going to mass to go to mass. I had been to mass probably twice in my life with like
Mm-hmm.
other people.
Yeah.
And I remember like sitting in the back and not knowing anything that was going on,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. And I like left and I didn't go back for a couple more months just because it was hard for me to sit
Yeah.
there and like not know what's going on and be so
Yeah.
nervous
Yeah.
that people are looking at you and like newsflash, nobody cares.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You think everybody's looking at you, and ideally, everyone else would be like, "Who are you talking about? I didn't even see anybody."
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they're not looking at you, but
Yeah.
it feels really intimidating and to be in like a new environment like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't go back for a while, and then I was like, okay, like no, I really need to do it. Like I really
Mm-hmm.
need to give this a fair chance.
Yeah.
And so like a year, I think it was Advent of 2022, like the
Mm-hmm.
first Sunday of Advent, which I find is funny considering that's like the liturgical New Year.
Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'm going to like give this a fair chance
Yeah.
and see how it goes.
That's cool.
And like I go into mass, I didn't know what Advent was either, so that was also, I didn't know what the liturgical calendar was. I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And so to like kind of go home and like look that up and be like, what's Advent? It's like, oh, that's kind of fitting, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I started going every Sunday, and it was just a really good place to like heal, like
Yeah.
from I think a lot of church hurt and questions
Mm-hmm.
and like running from God, because nobody spoke to me. I could go
Mm-hmm.
to mass and I could
Yeah.
sit in a pew and nobody would talk to me. And like some
Mm-hmm.
people are like, well, don't you like want to be welcomed by people or like
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever? And I was like, well, when you come from a church where like you're on a platform and you're in front of
Mm-hmm.
people and everybody knows
Yeah.
your name and talking to you, and like you have to feel like you have to like almost like put on a mask, like you have to look
Yeah.
like you're excited. And if I
Yeah.
didn't look excited, I got a talking to of like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's wrong,
Yeah.
And so to go to mass and to just sit and chill, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe I said bye to the priest like on my way out the door, but other than that, it was just lovely to go by myself and not
Yeah.
be bothered.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would be something I would think. I do fundraising for a living, and so sometimes we'll have a huge event, and I'm just like there, and I'm talking to everybody and everything. And then like one time we had another event the very next day, and I was like, I really don't want to go to this. Like, I really don't. It's like, yeah, it's not like a mask, but at the same time, it kind of is, because you're like, I'm so tired, but I can't act tired, or I'm so
Mhm.
talked out. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody else. I need my alone time, but I have to go and talk to people and be nice and be friendly and be welcoming. So I definitely feel you there.
Yeah, like the having to be on all the time.
Yeah.
And so I was going to mass, kind of. I liked going to mass, but I was like,
Hmm.
I don't know if I'm gonna like commit to this. Like, I
Yeah.
like being here. I feel like God is here. I feel like this is probably His church, but I don't know if this is like for me.
Hmm.
That's like a big commitment.
Yeah.
And also, I still didn't want to be Catholic. I was
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
like not wanting to do it.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think that was just like a pride thing almost? Like, you're just like, no, no, no. Like, I would have to admit that I was wrong, or I'd have to, like, I don't know. Is that kind of what the thought you think was in your head?
yeah, I think
Hmm.
it was pride, and it was also just like thinking about like what other people would think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was a big thing for me because people in my old church knew that this was like an issue for me, like
Yeah.
that the Catholic thing was an issue.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want, I guess, their judgment, which it doesn't matter now, obviously,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Absolutely.
I was like really like worried that people would be disappointed that they like wasted time
Yeah.
pouring into me spiritually.
Hmm.
Um and so I think just like leaving that church and having to undo a lot of hurt there.
Yeah.
I think I was nervous about like getting tied into some other place and
Hmm.
potentially like experiencing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So
That's a good point.
yeah. Um and I was praying and I was like really trying to figure it out. And it was actually Ash Wednesday of 2023. I
Hmm.
had never been up to the front of the church before because I
Hmm.
always sat in the back. I never went up for a blessing, for
Yeah.
communion. I just sat. And for Ash Wednesday, I got there so late that I had to sit like
In
in the
the
front,
front.
like with some people because there were no seats in the back. And I was like, okay. And
God's
then they
like, I
invited,
saved you a seat. It's right there.
yeah, so I ended up sitting with some like college kids. I was like,
Yeah.
whatever. And for ashes, like they let the
Yeah.
non-Catholics get
Hmm.
ashes too.
Yeah.
Um, so I remember walking up like towards the altar and like preparing to receive ashes, um, and just like looking up at like this
Hmm.
beautiful church
Yeah.
that I still attend now, and like seeing the altar and the tabernacle, and just like I was like, this is it.
Hmm.
I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it was just this like overwhelming sense of like peace and like
Yeah.
assurance that I hadn't had
Yeah.
before. And I was like, I just have to give it up and like do it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I did.
Yeah.
After a little bit of time, I met with a priest and kind of
Hmm.
started that whole process.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's super cool to hear. And I was like jotting down notes to remind. I didn't want to like. I said I was gonna like butt in and interrupt at some points, but a part of me was like, no, no, I'm just gonna let her keep going. Like, this is awesome. But there's a few things that are very similar in our stories that I really loved is that this series is to highlight great conversions, but not necessarily to poop on the Protestants because I have some Protestant friends that are amazing and on fire for their faith, and it sounds like that's what those people were in your
Mm-hmm.
life. And it's unfortunate too because some people do look at these people; they might look at Catholics bad, like please don't do that. Oh my gosh, like it's heretical. But it seems like they're probably coming from a good place. Like they were truly caring for your soul, which is awesome. And for or I guess what I was seeing in that is that like community was such a big part for you. Like it was great to have a community that kind of kept you in church through school and then after school or in college, and then having that discipleship group is like such a blessing. And for me, I was the same way. I had in high school a group of friends. I got to choose if I kept going to church when I became a freshman. I guess that's when you're adult and you're completely mature and can make great
Mm-hmm.
decisions. So I stopped going to church, but I like immediately joined the cross country team and met a whole bunch of guys. They're like, come to church with us. And it was the same thing, like evangelical kind of non-denominational church. And the other thing that we kind of had in common is like did kind of always had this feeling though of like, I mean, maybe this isn't everything. I don't know. There's some things I have questions about, but I kept being drawn back to it for some reason. And so I do feel like, yeah, God was like after our hearts, like throughout the whole thing. And it's cool to be able to like look back and kind of think like reflect on our story and reflect on our testimony. It's like, oh man, like God, first of all, sorry, I didn't see this and during all this time. But thank you for drawing me and calling me to you, even throughout these times that I was like seeking you in the wrong places. Kind of like think of it as a maze. It's like you go around one corner or whatever, and you're like, oh, it's like I'm looking for the exit, but it's like, oh, dang, nope, it's not this way. And we finally found the exit that actually goes to the Catholic Church, which is super cool. Now, I kind of it seemed like Mass might have been like your like kind of light switch moment of like, okay, I've got to do this. But would you say in general? Because I know some people's conversion stories are like this major thing happened and it was like a light switch popped on and it was like I knew that the Catholic Church was real. Would you say that your story though it doesn't seem like that was necessarily the case? It was kind of a longer like conversion, right?
Yeah, it was definitely longer just because I feel like I was running from it.
Yeah.
But I feel like when looking back, I was really convinced of the Eucharist. And like, I remember reading John 6, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
2018 after I heard what, Catholics believe. And I
Hmm.
was like, no, oh no.
Yeah.
And so, again, shoving that away only for so long. I could only run from God for so long. So I
Yeah.
feel like that, was the time that I was able to just like surrender finally and like give it
Hmm.
all up. So yeah, it's kind of it was a really long process, but there were
Hmm.
things like in the back of my mind for all those years.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I love that like Lizzie's video was part of it because even though it was like a small part, it blossomed. It was like a small seed that blossomed into something awesome, like amazing. And I think that gives so much solace to like content creators because you never know like whose like life you're going to impact. And it doesn't necessarily matter because you're not doing it for yourself, for your own edification. Like you're like we are doing this because we truly believe that something like that, like your story can happen. So that's super cool and really encouraging as like another content creator to be able to pray like we did before we recorded, just like pray to be a light for Jesus and to hopefully plant seeds. And we can plant tons of seeds with the power of social media, and then we can just pray that those seeds do blossom into something. And it'll be cool. Hopefully, God willing, we like enter heaven one day, and like God is able to show us, like, look at all these seeds you planted, and this is what they blossomed into. And that's kind of what has really drawn me to do content on social media. I think my wife says you talk too much and you need to do like a channel so you can talk to other people because I can't do that sometimes. But that was really cool. I loved that. Do you know Lizzie personally, or have you ever got to share that with her?
I don't know her personally. I think I might have sent her a message a couple years ago.
Yeah,
And yeah, I don't know her personally, but I'm
yeah,
still really thankful for that video.
yeah. I think I just came across her recently, so that's actually really random that like you brought her up because I came across
Mhm.
her recently and messaged her to be on the show, and I know she's got tons and tons of followers. I'm sure her inbox is jam packed,
Mhm.
but yeah, that was awesome, and then it's beautiful that like your act like that moment kind of seemed like of finally fully giving it over to God was like that moment at mass, or it's like
Mhm.
okay, like I've got to do this. It's just that's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So now, how's life been like post conversion? Like, what do you think? Like, what are the things like the fruits you've seen kind of grow from that? Like, how's your life changed since then?
Yeah, so even through like my conversion, my RCA process, it was still really hard. Like last year, I like almost considered like not going through with it
Hmm.
just because I was like scared of like what that meant on the other side. But it's been really good, obviously.
Yeah, yeah,
I something that I didn't expect to love so much is to submit to the authority of the church and the magisterium and like
yeah,
be under the protection. And because when I would go try to find a new church, I'd be on their website and I would have to go to the like what we believe section to like
yeah,
make sure my beliefs aligned. And I
yeah,
just don't have to do that anymore. Like I have the church and I can trust the church.
yeah,
And it's just like it's been beautiful and lovely.
yeah,
And it's not something that I expected.
yeah.
And also just receiving the sacraments.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't realize like how great it would be to like have tangible things like in my
Yeah,
faith. And
yeah.
so like not only just like receiving communion, like obviously that's
Yeah.
amazing and I'm so thankful. But also confession.
Hmm.
when I, in my church, my previous churches, we obviously didn't have confession. It was
Hmm.
always like talk to God about it.
Yeah.
And it was they would always pray the salvation prayer at the end of
Yeah.
service. And they would say, if you're not sure that like you are ready to meet the Lord, if he were to return right now, like you
Hmm.
need to accept him into your heart. And even though I had prayed that prayer a zillion times every week, I wanted to be like, oh, like I got mad at like somebody on the road, like
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm ready to go. And it was always a question of like, well, I asked God for forgiveness, but then I messed up again. Like,
Hmm.
am I really forgiven? And
Yeah.
so I don't know, to have confession, which I did not expect to love so much, but for
Hmm.
like to hear that like I am absolved,
Yeah.
and to like be able to leave the confessional and like know for certain that like I confessed all my sins and I
Yeah.
said what I needed to say
Hmm.
and I received absolution. And
Hmm.
so like I'm starting clean from here.
Yeah.
And so that's been really good, I think, honestly, for like my like scrupulous mind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
To
Absolutely.
like not have to question like
Hmm.
God's mercy,
Yeah.
which has been
Yeah.
really awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's been something that's been like 2025 has been my like year of like converting, not converting, but like yeah, just being drawn to confession.
Mhm.
Not necessarily because I'm like have these extreme mortal sins that I need to take there, but it's because I do have some, I mean, I do have more sins, but I do have like other sins that maybe in my Protestant world people would have been like, it's like, yeah, but that's not as bad as people that are having sex outside of marriage or like getting drunk with their friends and doing stupid stuff or stealing or murder. Like that, it's not as bad. It's I've been really really drawn to confession recently and really wanting to go and give that over to God. And it's been awesome because like when you first when I first started with the sacrament, I just always got so nervous. And I know that the priest is not going to remember anything. The priest is not going to be like, oh my gosh, I've never heard this before. I heard someone tell me that one time, you will never go into the confessional and tell the priest something that he's never heard before.
Mhm.
And, and yeah, but I've this year for some reason, I didn't pray about it. I didn't like, I don't know what it was. I don't know if maybe I've been going through this process and I just got on staff as a missionary with Focus or what it was, but something has been God, but he's been like drawing me to confession, and it's so awesome to be able to go in there. This is what I'm struggling with. These are my sins that I've committed since my last confession 2 weeks ago, and offer that up. And yeah, to hear those words, like I absolve you of your sins in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and it's just yeah, you feel it like literally come off your chest, and we know that we should do this and we should confess our sins out loud, not just out loud in our private room to God, but like out loud to someone. And that's why Alcoholics Anonymous do the same thing. It's
Mhm.
very rooted in a very kind of Catholic. I don't even remember if that's a Catholic founded group or what, but it's very, very kind of Catholic esque. Like they've got a very like admit it out loud. I'm an alcoholic. That's the first step, and it's
Mhm.
admitting your faults and your sins. And yeah, so yeah, confession's been big for me. Did you have any like specific roadblocks? So you decided you're going to become Catholic. You start the OCA process, and was there anything that was like, oh man, I am just having a hard time getting over this hump?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the typical like Mary and the
Mm,
papacy and things like
yeah, yeah.
that. And actually, like Mary, like wasn't a huge roadblock at
Hmm.
first, but then as I like was learning about like the doctrines that had like not developed over time, but had like been defined, I guess, over time.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was funny because I had met with my priest and I had brought it up, and he gave me Brant Petre's book, Jesus and the Jewish Roots of Mary.
Oh, cool.
And I had already read his book, Jesus and the Jewish Roots of the Eucharist.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I read that book, and it was funny, but like not funny because I was reading it and it literally addressed every single one of my questions, like almost
Yeah,
in a row.
yeah, yeah.
And it was just kind of like, I don't know, just like more confirmation. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is, I can accept this.
Hmm.
And then for the papacy, that one was probably less difficult for me to get over, just because, like, especially now where I like enjoy submitting to the magisterium.
Yeah, yeah,
That just kind of like came over time. Like I didn't really have to work through it. I just kind
yeah,
of learned to accept it.
yeah.
there's just a lot of learning that happens in your
Hmm.
conversion process.
Yeah.
And so, but really the big thing was like just believing in like the Immaculate Conception and
Yeah.
the Assumption.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, those are
Yeah,
really
which a
my
lot of
big
people have
things.
such a struggle with Mary, and usually when those are the two big ones, it's like a lot of Protestant churches actually they believe that. Maybe not Assumption, but Immaculate
Hmm.
Conception for sure. And a lot of Protestant churches believe that, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, the papacy was always something for me that I never had any roadblocks at all because I came in completely blind. I actually got tricked into going to my first OCA class, and I showed up and I was like, "Oh, this is like a class." And actually, it's kind of lit too much. That's a catechism right there, and that was the catechism that was on the table when we got there. And it was one of those things where I was like, "What did I just walk into?" And then they just started explaining things. But I remember the papacy being one where I was like, "Okay, yeah, this one sounds a little strange." And then the guy that I was talking to afterwards, the guy who ran the class, he basically told me, it's like there's no reason to let the papacy hold you back, because no matter what church you go to, there is a pope. Like there's a
Hmm.
pope of that church. And I'm really seeing it when you look at like even like Stephen Furtick, real
Hmm.
popular like evangelical Protestant pastor, and he's got tons and tons of satellite campuses and stuff. Well, those churches will do anything he like. If he says this is what we're going to do at our church and this is how we are going to act, like that, they're all going to obey and do it. It's like that's the Pope. Craig Groeschel is the Pope of Life Church, and he's
Hmm.
got multiple locations, and that thing just keeps growing. I mean, if
Yep.
that kept growing at that rate, I mean, 100 years from now, he would have to. He would have to pass it down to his successors or whatever. He would like if Craig Groeschel, God forbid, anything ever happened to him and he passed away or something, Life Church wouldn't just shut down. They would elect a new
Right.
person who would take over Craig Rochelle. And so he explained it like in such like a simple way. It's like, don't think of it as the Pope, just think of it as a church leader. And then
Hmm.
he explained it as like, isn't it so nice to have like people that will do all the scholarly reading? And we've had these people doing these scholarly research for so long, and they're able to just tell you like
Yep.
this is what the truth is on like same-sex marriage, or this is what the truth is on why pornography is bad. And I'm like, yeah, actually that is true. That is a good
Hmm.
point. I love that. Like that's a really
Hmm.
good point.
Yeah, for sure. I actually, there was a Facebook post I saw today, and it was like, why is half the world so excited about the Pope?
Yeah.
And like, you should be excited about Jesus. Like, he's the real Holy Father. And I was like,
Yeah.
half the world is excited about the Pope because like a billion people are Catholic. And
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
he's the leader of our church, just like
Yeah.
electing a new pastor.
Yep.
And then, going on into the why we call him the Holy Father.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was interesting. You're right. How saying
Mhm.
how, and it's one church.
Yeah.
We have parishes and priests, but
Hmm.
priests are like helpers of the bishop.
Yeah.
That
Hmm.
was something that was new to me as well, to like
Yeah.
learn about that.
Yeah.
And so it's like he's the head of one church.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many people think that it's like a dictatorship, and some people even go as far as like we worship the Pope, but at the same time, it's like, no, I think there are too many people that don't listen to the Pope. Like I think that more people need to. Maybe the Pope needs to be a little bit more like strong armed and stuff with some of these like dioceses and like Portland and Chicago and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I never had any like big time roadblocks, but I do always wonder like if sometimes people just let their pride kind of get in the way.
Hmm.
And I only say that because I do look at it from myself. I'm not calling myself humble because that would be prideful to say that, but I had absolutely no objections. I knew nothing about the Catholic Church at all. And so as it explained to me, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you brought up John 6, and yeah, like for anyone that's like does watching it doesn't know John 6, still a very, very short brief. It's like literally Jesus says, this is my body and you must eat it if you want to have life. And they're like, oh, okay. What did he just say? What did he just say? And it's like, eat my flesh and drink my blood. And they're like, oh my gosh, what is he saying? They kind of freak out. He doubles down on it like 6 times, but halfway through he changes it, and I think the word is like trogo or something. That means like, no, like gnaw on my flesh, rip
Hmm.
it apart with your teeth. If you don't do that, you will not have uh life in me. And then everyone starts leaving, and instead of saying, whoa, hold on, I was trying to like use symbolism to show you how important it is to gather and do this as a symbol. No, he said, just looks at the apostles and like, are you going to leave too? And I
Hmm.
was like, oh my gosh, when that was like explained to me, I was just like, why would anyone think this is a symbol? That's about as straightforward as it gets. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, that's wild.
And like the Christians have believed that it was, that
Hmm.
way, not a symbol
Yeah.
for like 1500 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anyone's gotten this far and they were like, I'm a Protestant and I'm open to Catholicism, whatever, go and look and see what Martin Luther, the head of the Protestant Reformation, go and see what he believed. Like, read his writings from like when the Protestant Reformation started, because that was something pointed out to me is like, Martin Luther could come back alive today and he would be so shocked and disappointed with where the Protestant Reformation has led,
Mm.
because he just wanted to kind of rid of corruption, which there probably, I mean, there was corruption, but he believed in the true presence. And he believed in a lot of what the Catholic Church believes. And so a lot of these Protestant churches that have come out of the Protestant Reformation are just like not even close to what Martin Luther had in mind when he was like, I want to break out. He just tried to reform the church outside of the church instead of reform it from within the church. And that was his biggest mistake. But man, Protestants, I just don't, sometimes it baffles me when it's like, there was a church, it was the Catholic Church, and St. Ignatius of Antioch tells us that. And then Martin Luther tried to fix the problem by going in the Protestant Reformation, and then that just got way out of hand. And everybody's like, "Oh, I can start my own church if I disagree with these beliefs." And it's gotten wild. And I feel like there's a new church starting every day, and there probably
Oh
is. There's
yeah.
probably stats on that. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it is really crazy to look at because especially like when I was like coming out of evangelicalism and like looking at the other denominations, I was like, man, like
Mhm.
how did we get so far from
Yeah.
like even just like from the Reformation the last 500 years? Another big thing for me was the rapture. I
Hmm.
don't know if like you ever
Hmm.
believed in that, but like we believed in like the pre-tribulation rapture that all of
Hmm.
the Christians would get snatched up before the tribulation, which is
Hmm.
so ironic now looking at all of the early Christian martyrs and
Hmm.
like how the apostles died.
Yeah.
And so, but like that wasn't even a belief until like the 19th century.
Yeah. It's wild.
And I was shocked when
Yeah.
I had kind of learned that. I was like, man, like what
Hmm.
else did I believe that was
Yeah.
just in the last couple hundred years?
Yeah.
And so it really is shocking once you kind of start looking into that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so sad nowadays. It's so many more people would convert at such a higher rate if they would stop honestly watching videos like this. Not ours, but like the like just watching YouTube videos of people saying like what I always forget how to say his last name, but Cliff and Stewart, like
Mm-hmm.
Connectly or whatever, when they're like going on their rants about like whether you believe in the true presence or not, I don't give a rip. It doesn't matter. And it's like, no, hold on, whoa, whoa, whoa,
It
no,
does.
it does matter. It absolutely matters. And again, it's so clear in the Bible, like if you don't eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you. So it does matter. So you just don't have an answer for it. But I wish just people would stop going to people like that to learn about the Catholic Church
Mm-hmm.
and just keep it super open minded. That's actually why you can actually flip through all my videos on my channel. And the only video I have about a different church is I have a video called How Life Church Made Me Catholic. But all it is I take their mission statement, they're becoming fully devoted followers of Christ, and how that, them pushing that so hard, but not giving us any context to it, led me to actually seek out like what does that even mean, like what does it mean to be a fully devoted follower of Christ. And in seeking that out, it was longer down the road, in seeking that out, that's why I think I was so open to the Catholic Church and why it all made so much sense. But I always recommend people to go super open-minded into it. And I've actually been doing a lot of research on the Baptist Church right now because I want to understand all the doctrines of the Baptist Church. That's where I grew up in the Baptist Church, but I never knew anything about it. So I want to understand it fully, so then you can actually have a conversation with someone. But so many people, if you've had conversations, you probably know too. But it's just like you get into conversations, and it's just like people automatically are like, you worship Mary and the saints, or like you guys. Haven't heard this one really much, but like you guys do cannibalism. If it is his
Mm-hmm.
true body, then that's cannibalism. Yeah, it's just so much crazy stuff. Idolatry and confession's
Yeah.
not biblical. You guys baptize infants, that's wrong. It's just like, oh my gosh. And so that's actually what's
Mm-hmm.
inspired the new series, so everyone can check that out. Hit the alert bell so you know when I post a new one on my Catholicism is Biblical series, because I'm just taking one teaching at a time, like just real small. So far the only one out is confession is biblical. But yeah, I'm just going to be going through and trying to hopefully explain it better to people. But Yeah, it's just it's a wild ride out there, but it's cool to hear conversion stories like yours. So we can be encouraged. If you have friends out there that maybe are in the boat where you and me were in our stories, just to keep walking with them, just keep staying with them, because you just never know when you're going to post a video and it's going to make the difference, or when you're going to invite them to something and they're finally going to say yes. So that's just awesome. As we're kind of getting to the end, do you have any advice of for like if someone was listening to your story and they're like, man, I'm actually really relating with this. What would you what advice would you give to someone if they're like, what should I do? Like, what should I like do if I'm kind of thinking that I'm wanting to seek out Catholicism more?
Yeah, so ironically, my first piece of advice as somebody who like promotes and like posts Catholic content is to get off the internet and
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
talk to a priest,
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions
Hmm.
and it can just be really overwhelming. And it was overwhelming for me as well.
Hmm.
And everything changed once I started just like meeting with a priest and talking about, he was great.
Mm.
His name's Father Jacob. I'm sure
Nice.
he will listen to this. He's great.
Heck yeah. Nice.
And he was the priest that I went to when I said that I wanted to become Catholic. And until RCA started, he was also my teacher and he did
Hmm.
all of my sacraments of initiation. He would let me come in once a month and we would sit down and he would be like, okay, what are your questions today? And we would
Nice.
just have
Hmm.
like an hour and a half for me to
Hmm.
just say whatever was like on my mind. And it
Yeah.
was so good after so many years of like trying to work through it myself and like
Hmm.
not having anybody to just like listen to me and like,
Yeah.
you know. And he wasn't saying anything trying to get me to join the church. He was like, you know, you have to do this on your own.
Hmm.
But it was just like so good for me
Yeah.
to have that in-person connection and conversation.
Yeah.
And then like my other advice is to honestly just take it slow and
Yeah.
don't rush it. I'm not saying you have to be as slow as me and take 6 years to join the church.
Yeah.
But it's a big choice. And I don't
Yeah.
think that God is like going to make you hurry.
Yeah. Hmm.
He's patient with us and he loves
Yeah.
us and
Hmm.
he is with you in the journey. And if you, another thing my priest always said was like, if you have questions or if you're struggling, like talk to God about it. Like he
Yeah.
already knows. Um, like just be honest and like let that be open and like, you know, don't feel like you have to try to hide it. There's no reason
Yeah.
to try to hide it.
Yeah.
So those were a lot of things that I wish I would have learned so many years ago.
Yeah. And yeah, I can't echo that more of again, someone who creates content is like, if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to take the next steps, it's like, okay, stop watching my videos now, get off the internet, go talk to a priest, a deacon, and honestly, just that. I think I said in a video one time, or a Catholic friend, and I'm like, no, 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 don't even go to a Catholic friend, just go
Mm-hmm.
straight to a priest, to make sure you're getting the best information possible. Because yeah, it's there's so much out there, and you can have one Catholic content creator and another that are saying completely opposite things. And if you're new to all this, like you just don't know. Like you don't
Mm-hmm.
know if what someone's saying is true or not. Especially when you get two Catholic content creators that are saying two different things, and it's just like, okay, wait, hold on a second, this is really confusing. So get it from the best source possible and just go straight to a priest. I had the same situation too of the guy who was teaching our classes wasn't at the time, but he was in the process of becoming a deacon. So he's now Deacon Harrison Garlic, and he works for the Chancery, and he's actually an attorney. And he told me when I got to this point, he said, I want you to not tell your wife at the time girlfriend. I don't want you to tell Lindsay that you're doing this for like 2 more weeks. I want
Mm-hmm.
you to actually take some time to really, really discern if you want to do this, and don't tell her you're coming. And then later on, he said, "All right, we're at this point." And at this point, Lindsay was my sponsor and everything. He goes, "We're at this point. I just want to make sure, because I'd rather you not become Catholic than do this just because of Lindsay." And I was like, whoa. And I think that was probably, I was like basically off the edge, and he basically just like gave me that very, very, very last little nudge of like, okay, I know this is absolutely true if he's literally telling me not to join if I'm only doing it for my wife. Because I feel like anywhere else would be like, no, 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 just do it, like just join. And I thought that was beautiful. It was very, very selfless on his part, and also very reverent for the church. And And now, especially because my catechesis at the time was still pretty elementary, but knowing now, like, man, I would encourage the same thing too, is like really take your time. Yeah, again, like you don't have to take 6 years, but if it takes that long, like take as long as you need to really understand it. Because when you get in there and you start saying, I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, like you are like making some bold statements during mass, and they're beautiful statements, but you want to understand everything that you're saying. So
Yeah, I believe like if you, well, as if you are coming in from a different Christian denomination, you have to stand up there and say that I, whatever your name, believe and profess all the Holy Catholic Church teaches, believes, and
mhm,
proclaims to be revealed by God. Like
yeah,
you better mean it, because
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
big thing you're saying
yeah.
in front of the entire congregation.
Yeah, yeah, because that priest might say, "Awesome," and move to the next person,
Yeah.
and God's up there like,
Do you?
I don't see, I know the truth. So, well, that's awesome. Well, do you want to do a little shout out for your channel, and where can people find you to watch more?
Yeah, so I actually started sharing my conversion journey on TikTok so many years
Nice,
ago because
nice,
I didn't have anybody, and so I was just
yeah,
talking to the internet, and then they kind of cheered me on to my conversion. So that
so
is
awesome.
Gemma in the Rough, and then
Yeah,
also my Instagram is Gemma in the Rough as well. I have
nice.
a YouTube channel that has like one video of a prayer, but if you're interested in that, Seven
Yeah,
Sorrows Rosaries there too.
yeah. Just start subscribing to it. Then she'll have to post on it. She'll be like, oh dang, now I have to post on it. But
Right.
and awesome. And yeah, Gemma, she told me is the patron saint, right?
Yes.
Confirmation saint.
Yep.
And so if you were confused, it's like, wait, it says Taylor. Is it Gemma? What's her name? It's her name's
Whatever.
Taylor, but
Call me
yeah,
whatever.
she says you can call her whatever you want. And so yeah, we will come up with some random nicknames and just call you whatever. So no, it's great. If you guys are watching, all the links that we mentioned, the video that she mentioned, that Lizzie, the one that the video by Lizzie. Wow, that was, I just had a stroke or something. The video by Lizzie that she talked about, that she watched, that kind of changed her life or perspective on things, is in the description, and we'll tag her in this too. So if we want you guys to go support other channels as well, and then all the links to her channels will be down there as well. So thank you so much for sharing your story. It
Yeah,
was
thanks for
great.
letting me come
Yeah,
on. It's
it's
awesome.
awesome. So we'd love to have you back on sometime. I'm working on some other projects. I'll definitely keep you in mind for some more like fun, lighthearted, like Catholic trivia type stuff. I think would be a lot
Great.
of fun. And yeah, so I'll keep you in mind. So everyone else, don't forget to like and subscribe on this video, on her videos, on go to TikTok, wherever you guys listen to everything, and just subscribe, follow. You know, it supports the channel, supports what we're doing, and we hope you guys got something out of this. We're praying for you, and we will see you guys on the next conversion story. And yeah, God bless.